Welcome back to the Game Journal for March 2021. I played a good amount of games this month, so let's just hop right on into it. Observation. This was a really cool short narrative adventure game. Gameplay consists of you controlling cameras and drones to reconnect to the ship's network of devices and assisting a crew member with finding the rest of the crew. Puzzles can be confusing, but it was usually just a case of overthinking or missing a bit of information. The station looks great, and being a camera makes all the post-processing effects look really nice and not break immersion. The plot gets more interesting as the game goes on, but it ends with more questions than answers. I enjoyed my time with it. It was a good game to play in one sitting for an evening. Dark Souls Free. The third Souls game I have ever played, and the first one I have actually finished. While I had issues with the difficulty, by the end of the game I finally understood how to play and what I was doing, and that made the game much more enjoyable. Sadly, it took 30 hours for it to finally click. The main issue of Dark Souls 3 and most Souls games is that they're cryptic and confusing for new players. And while it might be where a lot of the interest in Souls games come from, it feels like things are cryptic that shouldn't be, like how stats work, where to go to progress, what your goal even is, what the hell is even going on. Things like this are Souls games' best and worst aspects. They are what make the game so interesting and intriguing, but also make them so difficult to get into. It's hard to get invested in a world or a story when you know all the questions you have won't be answered, and if they are, they'll most likely not be answered in a satisfying way. I don't mind being left in the dark on most of the lore and such, but I at least want a clear goal and understanding of what I'm even doing. You can have the most interesting locales and explain almost nothing about them, and I'll be fine with that as long as I know why or what I'm even doing there. Dark Souls 3 compared to the original Dark Souls seems pretty lacking in paths to explore and the interconnected world, which I thought was the most interesting part of the original game. The game seems extremely linear with forks in the road that lead to different areas that never seem back together. One time I missed a way to progress because I missed an entrance to a sewer, which led me into the rest of the city. A city with many streets and alleyways, however the only possible way for me to access the rest of it is to go for this one sewer entrance. I missed how to get down to an area because the stairs were broken and the only other path just did a short loop back, only to discover a ladder hidden at the back of the room before the stairs that led me to the bottom of the stairs. What I thought the game was showing me that wouldn't be so easy to get down was actually the game mocking me for not even seeing an even easier way to get down earlier. However, despite all my issues with the game, I still feel I really enjoyed my time with it and felt satisfied to finally finish it. The feeling of overcoming a cryptic and difficult challenge is something not many games offer. I'm extremely interested in Elden Ring and seeing how open world design and another writer end up changing the issues I had and if they end up creating a better product or just losing more of what makes these games special. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Great action adventure game with likable characters and great visuals. The main issue of the game is the Metroidvania design, but instead of having a single large connected world like most of them do, Fallen Order has multiple large levels. This causes paths that require later upgrades instead of feeling like new places to explore and progress, just become backtracking and side objectives. The usual Metroidvania exploration discovery loop is broken by clear objectives and traditional story progression. Combat is fun yet slower paced hack and slash style, clearly inspired by Dark Souls, but not as punishing in difficulty, at least not on the Jedi Knight mode I played on. You progress from checkpoint to checkpoint like bonfires from Dark Souls, and dying causes you to lose all your current XP towards your next skill point that can be regained by damaging the enemy who killed you along with giving you a full heal. The game is very forgiving with its difficulty, and that makes exploration and progression less annoying, but also makes battle feel very thoughtless later in the game as you get used to dealing with the different types of enemies and upgrade your character. First encounters with enemies have you carefully taking note of your surroundings and picking off priority targets while reacting to others when they go in for an attack, while later encounters with the same group of enemies have you using your powers to quickly dispatch most of the enemies in a single blow, quickly finishing off what is left, something that is amusing and empowering at first couple times you do it, but then ends up becoming a slog. Boss fights are small in number, but easily some of the highlights of this game. Game throws in some mid-bosses to add some extra challenge to levels without proper set pieces of the traditional bosses, but these end up later becoming regular enemies afterwards until eventually all the mid-bosses just become texture swapped mix and matches of the same fights with extra mid-bosses added in. Secret bosses also exist, but they're just hard versions of regular tough enemies, and while more challenging than most fights in the game, the small number of them end up leaving the player wanting for more. The story in the game is interesting, with likable characters, but being stuck in between episodes 3 and 4 end up making it impossible for anything impactful or interesting to really happen with the plot, outside of personal growth and relationships between the characters. With the main driving force of the plot being something that works for motivating the character, but leaves the player knowing that nothing will happen because of the major impact it would have on the world, an impact that is clearly not present in the original films, obviously leading to the player knowing nothing will actually happen by the end of the story. Shame this is the case because it's one of the best Star Wars media in years and is forced to be meaningless and unimportant as it can be to the overall franchise. Hopefully they'll be able to set future games in a part of the series where you have more control and free reign with. A very solid game that, while it has its clear flaws, it's still worth the time to play it and leaves me interested in what they have planned for the future. Monster Hunter Rise. The newest entry in a hit series with new mechanics and quality of life changes that takes the addicting gameplay loop and simplifies it to almost the bare essentials. The new movement of wire bugs and seamless maps returning from world make the hunting and traversing fast-paced and unrestrictive. Some weapons have been changed, making some weapons feel way better to use and others feel inferior to previous entries. Still plenty of great weapons to use, but it's a shame that things actually mess up what makes weapons fun to use after all these entries. The game has plenty of monsters and quests to take on, but the game splits its quest into two different types, Village Quest and Hub Quest. Village Quests are single player and Hub Quest can be taken on multiplayer. However, Village Quests stop at 6 stars and the story progresses in Hub Quest, requiring the player to play multiplayer to progress or to deal with a sharp difficulty spike to tackle them alone. Luckily, multiplayer quests are marked completed for all players in the quest, where in some previous entries, only the host got the quest marked as completed, requiring groups to redo quests up to 4 times. The amount of content in the game is plentiful, but avid Monster Hunter fans will notice a lack of late game content. The late game content is planned to be patched in about a month after launch, but players are upset about the content normally included in the initial release being excluded and postponed for a post-release patch. I'm enjoying my time with it, but without friends to play with, progressing in the late game is very unmotivating. Subverse. Possibly the biggest release of a pornographic game. While only the first act is out, the game has tons of potential. Gameplay is simple twin-stick shooter space combat that is enjoyable while lacking depth at the moment, along with grid-based tactical combat that also lacks any depth at the moment. Both are solid and enjoyable enough to hold up the game between story segments and sexual content. The story is surprisingly interesting, starting as a simple stop the anti-sex bad guys and slowly turning into a gripping political drama space opera. Humor still takes the center stage, and the game is very much aware it is a porn game and focuses on sex jokes and the like, but proves it's able to do much more if it wants to and manages to keep the player properly invested outside of talking to girls you're trying to bang. While lacking in sexual content at the moment, what is there is promising, and what is promised is exciting. The game is one to keep an eye on, and I am very much looking forward to playing it again once more updates are out or the game enters its 1.0 release. And that is it for the month. Thank you so much for watching. I am currently have a large blanket draped over me and using that to help the acoustics for my audio. I am very hot and sweaty and my neck is extremely stiff and my back hurts. I am going to stop recording now and get this fucking blanket off me. But thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed, please like the video and leave a comment. I really appreciate it knowing that people are actually watching this.